So when you picture a healthy farm field, what comes to mind? For generations, the ideal was this perfectly tilled, clean field. You know, the one, dark, uniform soil, all turned over and ready to go. But what if that picture-perfect field is actually a sign of some serious trouble? Today, we're going to challenge that old image and explore how leaving last season's so-called mess behind might just be the smartest thing a farmer can do.
All right, let's dive right in. To get why residue is so important, we first have to understand the problem with bare soil. For decades, conventional tillage was just how it was done. But all that intensive digging and turning, while it prepares a seedbed, comes with some pretty big unintended consequences. It basically turns our soil from a tough, resilient ecosystem into a really vulnerable surface.
I mean, you can see why farmers did it. The goals make sense on the surface, right? You want to prep the soil for seeds, get a handle on the weeds, and mix in your nutrients. But the reality, as we've learned the hard way, is that these actions can be incredibly destructive. All that repeated plowing just shatters the soil's natural structure, making it fall apart. It also supercharges the breakdown of organic matter, which is the absolute lifeblood of healthy soil, releasing all that valuable carbon straight into the atmosphere.
And here's the most immediate danger. When that soil structure is gone and the surface is left bare, it's completely exposed. A heavy rain doesn't just soak in anymore. Nope, it hammers the surface, kind of seals it shut, and then just runs right off, taking that precious, fertile topsoil with it. Same thing happens with a strong wind. And this isn't just losing a bit of dirt. You're losing nutrients, you're losing the soil's ability to hold water, and you're losing long-term productivity.
So, if leaving soil bare is the problem, what's the solution? Well, let's turn to the unsung hero in this whole story, crop residue. We're about to see how this stuff builds a way more resilient and sustainable system from the ground up.
First off, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What is crop residue? It's simply all the leftover plant material, the straw, the stubble, the leaves, after you've harvested the grain. For a really long time, this stuff was just seen as waste, something to get rid of. But now we know it's not waste at all. It's armor. It's a critical resource that protects and rebuilds the soil for the next season.
This whole shift in thinking really brings us to a showdown between two completely different ways of managing farmland. In one corner, you've got the old-school conventional tillage system, and in the other, you have this newer philosophy we call conservation tillage. Let's put them head-to-head.
Okay, before we compare, you gotta know the magic number. What's the dividing line? It's 30%. If you leave at least 30% of the soil surface covered with that crop residue after you've planted, you are officially practicing conservation tillage. And look, that's not just some random number. It's the minimum amount you need to get real, effective protection against erosion. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Conventional tillage, you're left with less than 15% of the soil covered, you're massively disturbing it, and that leads to high erosion and you're burning through your organic matter. Conservation tillage is the total opposite. More than 30% cover, way less disturbance, low erosion risk, and you actually build organic matter over time. It's a game changer.
And here's something really cool, a direct link between being productive and being sustainable. To get that protective 30% cover, you actually need a pretty good harvest. A yield of about 3 tons per hectare gives you enough leftover residue to hit that target. So, get this. Growing a good crop is the first step to protecting the soil for the next good crop. It's a positive feedback loop. Okay, so let's get into the science a bit. We've been calling this residue armor, but how does it actually work? Well, it totally transforms the soil environment through 4 key mechanisms. You can think of them as the 4 pillars of soil health. First, it's like a blanket. It regulates the soil temperature, keeping it cooler in the summer and a bit warmer in the winter, which all the soil life just loves. Second, it saves precious water by cutting down on evaporation from the surface. Third, and this is the obvious one, it stops erosion in its tracks by absorbing the impact of raindrops and slowing down runoff. And finally, as that residue breaks down, it becomes food for the entire soil ecosystem, building up that all-important organic matter and creating a rich, stable soil for years to come. So, those are the incredible benefits of leaving residue on the field. But what happens when we take it off? What are the stakes, really, when we decide to remove that armor and leave the soil completely bare? You know, this is a really critical question right now because there's a lot of interest in using crop residue for other things, like making biofuels or for animal bedding. And those are valuable things for sure, but we have to understand the trade-offs. What's the cost to the soil itself when we decide to scrape the fields clean? Well, taking that residue off triggers a pretty nasty downward spiral. You lose the very building blocks of a healthy soil structure. The soil can't hold as much water. You're literally shipping essential nutrients off the farm that would have been recycled. And of course, you're opening the door for massive erosion and releasing all that stored carbon. You're basically undermining the very foundation of your farm's productivity. Now, let's just focus on the carbon story for a second, because these numbers are pretty stark. With conventional tillage, on average, you're looking at a net loss of 100 kilograms of carbon per hectare every year. It's just puffing up into the atmosphere. But just by switching to reduced tillage, you flip that around and start storing about 100 kilograms. And if you go all in with no-till, whoa, you could be sequestering 300 kilograms of carbon per hectare per year. That literally turns farms from being carbon sources into powerful carbon sinks. So, what this all points to is a completely new vision for what a resilient and profitable farm looks like. It's one where that old picture of a clean, tilled field is just gone. In this new vision, the soil is almost never left bare. The future of farming is, quite simply, covered. I absolutely love this quote because the analogy is just perfect. Residue, it doesn't matter if it's from a dead plant or a living cover crop, it acts like skin for the earth. It's this protective layer that shields all the vital systems underneath from the harsh elements, just like our skin does for us. And hey, if you need one more crystal clear reason why this all matters, here it is: water. When you build up organic matter in your soil, which is mostly carbon, you dramatically increase its ability to hold on to moisture. Just think about what that means in a world with more extreme weather and droughts. For every single 1% of carbon you add, you can double the soil's water storage. That is building some serious resilience right into the land. And in the end, it really all boils down to this one simple, powerful question. Soil is the finite, precious foundation of our entire food system. It is our single most critical agricultural asset. So as we look to the future, we really have to ask ourselves, why would we ever leave it uncovered, unprotected, and exposed?